Hello, New York Yankees fans. We have brand new exclusive videos and the latest news for you. Before we get started, we'd like to invite you to join our channel and give this video a like. It's crucial to get exclusive access to the latest updates. Word began to spread through baseball circles like a quiet ripple, turning into a sudden wave, and before anyone could fully process what was happening, whispers grew louder about former Yankees player Paul Goldschmidt making a life-changing announcement. Fans who had followed his journey for years felt a sudden jolt, as if a chapter they thought still had a few pages left had been unexpectedly closed, leaving them stunned and wondering what brought this moment to the surface. People close to the situation described a sense of calm around Goldschmidt, suggesting that the decision didn't come from frustration or pressure, but from a place of reflection. And while no official speech or dramatic scene accompanied the news, the atmosphere around baseball insiders became charged with speculation. Was this something he had been contemplating for a long time, or did something specific trigger the move? That uncertainty only intensified the reactions online, where social media lit up with fans sharing memories, clips, and heartfelt reactions, turning the rumor into an emotional avalanche for anyone who ever admired his disciplined approach at the plate. Those who followed Goldschmidt closely over the years began recalling the subtle hints he dropped in recent interviews, moments that in retrospect sounded like a man preparing for a transition rather than someone gearing up for another chapter on the field. Observers remembered the way he spoke about appreciating small things outside baseball, like spending more time with family or exploring passions that had been overshadowed by the rigorous rhythm of a professional athlete's life. Now those clues started assembling themselves into a clearer picture, fueling conversations about how long he had been planning this exit and whether he had confided in teammates beforehand. The rumor of his retirement gained force as people pointed out signs that felt obvious in hindsight, such as changes in his demeanor or the way he interacted with young players, almost like a mentor ready to pass the torch. This retrospective analysis only made fans feel more connected to the moment, as though they had been part of the emotional journey without realizing it. Inside the baseball world, even those who rarely agreed seemed united in acknowledging that Goldschmidt carried himself with a professionalism that demanded respect. His decision to step away now sparked debate about what it means for someone of his stature to choose the right moment to say goodbye. Some speculated that he felt satisfied with everything he achieved, while others believed that he wanted to leave on his own terms before the natural wear of the sport forced his hand. The absence of a dramatic decline or any major controversy only added to the mystique, creating an alluring narrative about an athlete who valued integrity above spectacle. Conversations swirled about whether he would remain connected to the sport, possibly taking on a role behind the scenes or mentoring younger talents quietly, away from the spotlight. Regardless of what comes next, it became clear that his retirement marked the end of a chapter not just for him, but for the many who admired his consistency and leadership. Fans flooded online platforms with emotional messages describing how Goldschmidt had left an imprint on their baseball memories. Some spoke about the first time they watched him step up to the plate, while others shared personal stories of games they attended where his performance made the night unforgettable. That wave of nostalgia created a collective moment of appreciation, as though the baseball community stopped to honor someone who shaped an era with his calm strength and steady presence. Even those who didn't root for the Yankees felt compelled to participate in the conversation, acknowledging that players like him transcended rivalries. And that's why his retirement announcement hit so differently. It wasn't just a player stepping away from the game, but a symbol of reliability exiting the stage. The emotions poured out across fan bases, showing how deeply admired he was, even outside the franchise he represented. Within media circles, analysts began dissecting what this meant for the broader baseball landscape. Some argued that his exit could create space for rising stars searching for their moment to shine, while others believed that losing such a seasoned figure would leave a noticeable void. Discussions about legacy, influence, and impact surfaced everywhere, weaving together narratives about how his disciplined style shaped younger generations and how his presence added stability to any lineup he was part of. The idea that he was walking away at a time when the game is going through stylistic shifts only amplified the curiosity surrounding his reasons. Reporters whispered that he might have felt the sport evolving in ways he wasn't as passionate about, although no one close to Goldschmidt confirmed this. The ambiguity only added fuel to the rumor, making the story even more compelling for fans hungry for insight. As the first waves of reactions began to settle, what remained was a sense of quiet admiration for the grace with which Goldschmidt handled such a monumental decision. The baseball community, even in its surprise, seemed to accept that his retirement represented a personal milestone rather than a dramatic twist. That subtlety made the moment feel even more meaningful, as though he walked away with the same steady composure that defined his career. Fans continued discussing the possible motivations behind the decision, but most agreed that regardless of the specifics, the news marked the end of an era. And as everyone tried to absorb what this meant, one thing became clear. His legacy would not fade with his retirement. Instead, it would linger like the steady rhythm of a player who always showed up prepared, always gave his best, and always carried himself with dignity. In the hours following the buzz about Goldschmidt's retirement, what started as a rumor slowly transformed into a moment of collective reflection across baseball communities. People who had followed his unique blend of power and professionalism began revisiting old footage, interviews, and memories that encapsulated what he brought to the sport. It wasn't about statistics or highlight plays alone, but the intangible qualities that made him an anchor in every clubhouse he joined. Fans, commentators, and even former teammates seemed to share a similar sentiment, that Goldschmidt's presence carried a certain weight that can't be easily replaced. This atmosphere of remembrance created an almost cinematic pause, where everyone reevaluated how much his quiet dedication shaped the identity of the teams he played for. Amid all the chatter, the story took on the tone of a tribute, as though the game itself was exhaling, acknowledging the departure of someone who understood its heartbeat. Speculation continued to swirl about what future path he might choose, especially since players with his experience typically find opportunities in coaching, development, or front office work. Some insiders whispered that he had already been approached about potential roles that would keep him connected to the game, although nothing concrete had surfaced. Others believed he might step away completely for a while, embracing a lifestyle that offered more freedom and more time away from the spotlight. His calm personality made people think he wouldn't chase headlines or public attention, but would instead choose something that aligned with his steady nature. That thought only deepened the intrigue, because it allowed fans to imagine countless possibilities for what comes next in his life story. Whether he moves into mentoring, analysis, or something entirely unexpected, the uncertainty surrounding his next chapter gave the rumor an added layer of suspense. Within team circles, there was talk about how his departure might reshape the dynamics of several organizations that saw him as a model of consistency. Younger players often looked to him for guidance, even when he wasn't trying to be the center of attention. Teammates frequently described him as someone who led by example, preferring actions over speeches, setting a tone that others naturally followed. With that kind of presence suddenly gone, people wondered which rising talents would be inspired to step into that leadership void. The transition would not be immediate, of course, because influence like his doesn't disappear overnight. Instead, it leaves behind a blueprint for others to follow. These conversations only added to the sense that his retirement wasn't confined to personal significance, but carried ripple effects throughout the broader baseball landscape. Fan reactions continued pouring in, creating an emotional mosaic that highlighted the impact he had on different generations. Some fans had grown up watching him, while others discovered him later in his career, appreciating the way he brought maturity and calmness to the sport. The diverse nature of these reactions emphasized how wide-reaching his influence truly was. Many fans expressed surprise at how deeply the news affected them, even if they weren't supporters of the teams he played for. They talked about him as the kind of player who embodied the essence of baseball, disciplined, focused, and passionate without craving personal attention. That genuine respect from across different fan bases transformed the rumor-driven news into a sort of tribute, filled with emotion yet grounded in admiration. Media outlets, even without seeking official details, began crafting narratives around his journey, piecing together moments that defined him as both a player and a person. They highlighted the quiet strength he displayed throughout his career, the reliability that became his calling card, and the subtle but powerful influence he had on team culture wherever he went. These storylines didn't feel exaggerated or forced. Instead, they felt like natural extensions of the way people perceived him, creating a warm and nostalgic atmosphere surrounding the news. Analysts debated whether his retirement would inspire more players to prioritize personal fulfillment over longevity, especially given how gracefully he seemed to handle the transition. And in those discussions, it became evident how deeply the rumor had embedded itself into the fabric of baseball conversation. As the waves of speculation, memory, and tribute settled into a quieter rhythm, what remained was a portrait of an athlete who finished his journey with dignity. Paul Goldschmidt didn't need dramatic announcements or elaborate ceremonies to mark this turning point. The simplicity of the moment reflected the simplicity with which he always approached the game. Focused, humble, and deeply respectful of the sport he devoted so many years to. Fans, analysts, and peers accepted that his retirement, though surprising, felt authentic, like the final page of a chapter written with purpose. And as people continued sharing stories and reflections, the sense grew that his influence would persist in subtle but powerful ways. The rumor may have been the spark, but the lasting memory is the legacy he leaves behind, one of grace, consistency, and a quiet strength that will be remembered long after his final decision. But before we continue, please remember to join our channel and give this video a like. Your support allows us to keep bringing you the latest news about the New York Yankees. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments. As conversations continued circulating through baseball communities, a new wave of curiosity emerged about how long Goldschmidt had been carrying the idea of retirement in his mind. Some former teammates hinted that he had subtly changed the way he talked about the future, almost as if he was mentally preparing himself for a slower pace of life. Those who observed him closely pointed out that he had developed a newfound appreciation for the quieter moments around the game, arriving earlier than usual just to enjoy the peaceful atmosphere of an empty ballpark, or staying after practices to chat with staff members who weren't part of the spotlight. These small gestures, which once seemed insignificant, now felt like pieces of a larger puzzle. The rumor of his retirement transformed these memories into meaningful clues, fueling the belief that he had reached a point where baseball could no longer compete with the personal fulfillment he was searching for. And so the story deepened, not just about a player stepping away, but about a human being acknowledging a shift in his priorities. As the rumor spread further, discussions emerged about what Goldschmidt's departure symbolized within the sport itself. His career had always been marked by a balance of power and humility, a combination that made him admired by teammates and respected by rivals. Many fans felt that his decision, even without dramatic declarations, spoke volumes about what truly matters to a veteran who has seen every side of the game. Some analysts whispered that his retirement might inspire others to rethink how they measure success, suggesting that longevity and accolades aren't the only markers of a fulfilling journey. They speculated that Goldschmidt's decision could signal a subtle cultural shift, encouraging players to reflect on personal well-being rather than pushing endlessly for milestones. That notion created a thoughtful pause across sports shows and fan discussions, adding another layer of meaning to an already emotional moment. The rumor grew into something larger than his own career. It became a conversation about the evolution of professional athletes and the freedom to choose one's own ending. Even with the uncertainty surrounding his next steps, one thing became undeniable. The admiration for Goldschmidt solidified into something deeper and more enduring. Fans began sharing long messages about how his attitude affected them, not just as spectators, but as people carrying their own ambitions and struggles. They described his calm presence, his discipline, and the way he handled pressure without theatrics as qualities that extended beyond baseball. Those reflections helped transform the rumor of his retirement into a powerful reminder of how athletes can influence everyday lives simply by embodying consistency and character. Many imagined that, even far from the spotlight, he would continue inspiring others, whether through a quiet role in player development, a surprise appearance in community events, or simply by living a balanced life that others could look up to. And so, the story didn't fade. It evolved, wrapped in a sense of gratitude and hope, proving that even after stepping away from the diamond, Paul Goldschmidt would remain a figure whose presence left a lasting mark. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the New York Yankees, please subscribe to our channel and give us a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.